Good morning, I'm Kylie Ross-Seibert from Retail Alliance and welcome to Retailers Podcast. Today I'm joined again by my co-host, Joey Morgan, and today's guest, Dr. Foster or Dr. Denise Foster from HempHaven in Chesapeake. Welcome, Dr. Foster.
Good morning.
It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
And it's quite an interesting company that you have started over there or joined as a franchise, I believe. So tell us a little bit about that.
I am, first of all, a nurse. I have been an RN practicing in Hampton Roads for 37 years, and I have been very intimately involved in both the clinical practice and in educational practice as well, because I've taught at a number of universities and colleges, including in the Hampton Roads area. And so when this phenomenon of medical cannabis began rolling across the country, we were faced with the fact that how do we help our patients understand and how do we help our patients use the medical cannabis products safely and appropriately? Because as in any drug, there's always room for confusion, misinformation, and actually abuse. So about 5 years ago, I was led to understand and led to look into the research related to medical cannabis, and I transitioned into becoming a cannabis nurse, and that is a real thing. I was elected and served on the board of directors at the American Cannabis Nurses Association for 2 years, where I was a secretary and led a few chairs there in the committees. And with that knowledge of medical cannabis, working with patients across the country, it became very clear to me, based on the research, not only is it an effective and valid treatment, but it is also a safe and holistic treatment as well. There is no opportunity for toxicity. There are minor interactions related to some of the pharmaceutical drugs, but more than that, I recognize that it actually does help people. And with that, I began to recognize how frustrating it is for our healthcare professionals, especially nurses. We are kind of caught in the middle with helping people become healthy and limited by the constraints of either education, what we can fit in a curriculum, or what we can provide in related to care because of the regulations and restrictions. So we're really kind of on a hamster's wheel, if you would, because we're not moving forward, we're not getting any healthier. And so I started looking around for an outfit. I was initially going to look into opening a hemp and CBD store independently, but there's a lot of startup costs. So I have a vast network of cannabis nurses across the country who work either in a dispensary type setting, a medical dispensary type setting, or they work in a retail type setting. And so I kind of connected with one particular cannabis nurse who turned me on to the fact that HempHaven has a franchise opportunity. And I thought, well, that would be a great way for this non-business person, I'm a nurse, not a business person, to dip my toe in the water. Somebody who's already put together the blueprint, someone who already has a track record of success, because in Missouri, where they originated in Kansas City, they had 8 franchises within 2 years. So I was the 9th. I am the only one on the East Coast. The concentration of them is in Missouri. And so I am the first on the East Coast. And just after I opened, about 2-3 months later, they had another opening in San Antonio, Texas. So now we number 10. Okay. And we continue to grow with this model because our model is very different. They quickly embraced my approach to them because, number one, I am a nurse and I have the same values and the same mission, which is to educate and empower our communities to understand and use these products for wellness and not just to sell you something because I have a lot of stock in the back. So it fit my model, and we're doing very well in the success of this because of this approach. We're not just your standard CBD hemp store. We don't focus on selling the product, we focus on selling the knowledge. And then with that, I also use my education and coaching as a nurse because people are coming to me and want to understand these products and how to use them.
Okay, so quick question then as a nurse, and you're advocating and educating other nurses, what happens with the hospital system? Is that disconnected from what you're trying to do, or is there doctors and other, medical companies that believe in it too?
That's a great question. All right, in our area, we have a lot of hospitals that are under one particular umbrella, and as long as at the federal level, medical cannabis products remain illegal. Now, I'm talking medical cannabis, which is distinctly different than hemp. Medical cannabis is an entity that includes a higher percentage of THC, the tetrahydrocannabinol that is found in marijuana plants. So as long as that remains at the federal prohibited level, hospitals will not be allowing it. And in fact, I believe there's a few medical groups and organizations that have said that we can't allow it. But on the other side of the coin, medical cannabis has been approved in Virginia. Our first dispensaries did open in Bristol just a few weeks ago, and they are now, dispensing medical cannabis products. And with that, there is a registry in the Virginia Department of Health Professions where you can go and look up to see which doctors and which nurse practitioners have been allowed to recommend medical cannabis. So in our area, again, there is a whole list of physicians and nurse practitioners who have been allowed to recommend medical cannabis. So on one side, the hospitals and healthcare systems are saying no, but on the other side, they're already allowing their physicians and nurse practitioners to recommend it for outside of the clinical setting use.
Okay. And then, of course, you've just got consumers possibly directly coming to you without any sort of referrals as well, I would hope.
That's correct, yes. So that's for them. I was speaking solely about the medical cannabis.
Yeah.
With CBD and all of the products of wellness that come from hemp have been made legal through the 2018 Farm Bill. And with that, any compound that comes from hemp must meet one specific standard. It must meet the THC level. The level is 0.3% or less. So it's very negligible. When you compare that to medical cannabis starts somewhere around the 10% level and up. So you can see there's a distinct difference between 10% and up and 0.3%. It's very, very negligible. So hemp is very heavily regulated. Everything that we sell in the store and every hemp product and CBD product across the country must meet that standard related to that 0.3% or less of THC.
And you do both, is that what you're saying? Medical.
I didn't catch that.
And you're doing both the medical and the hemp?
In my store, no. My store, I sell mainly retail hemp and CBD products. So they meet that standard to come from hemp at less than 0.3% THC.
What's the benefit of those products then with such like the low THC count? What kind of benefits do they offer?
They do continue to offer benefits. Well, first of all, I do have THC-free products because first of all, I still work as a cannabis nurse in my other business. I have another business, Empirical Cannabis, which is where I work as a nurse at educating and coaching individuals who want to use medical cannabis across the country. But those individuals have approached their physician or their nurse practitioner, depending on the state, to address specific needs that have been approved through medical cannabis. In Virginia, it's let doctors decide, so that means anyone who can come to a doctor or a nurse practitioner to petition for a medical cannabis card is up to the physician or the nurse practitioner. Here, you don't need a medical card. The CBD and hemp products are, as I said, regulated by the Farm Bill, and therefore everything in the store is a retail type model where you come to the store, you talk to me, hopefully, ideally, and we discuss and educate about the products that could be a benefit to you. And then I help you understand how to use it and what to look for. And if you're taking pharmaceutical prescription drugs, we talk about that, and so forth and so on. So really it is it's not an end run, but it's kind of an adjunct to say, if you don't want to go to the steps of getting your medical cannabis card and going to the dispensary and having to do all of that, these products have the same effect. The benefit to having the THC, even that tiny amount, is something what we call the Entourage Effect. This is an effect that has been studied very internationally. It was proposed by Dr. Ethan Russo, who understood from a plant medicine approach as a physician that these compounds within the plant, they can be isolated, and that's great. We've isolated THC and synthesized it and put it in a pill and called it Marinol. So we can synthesize these compounds artificially, but there's no such thing as a substitute for the whole plant. And so when you put the compounds together that are in the plant, including the THC, they are more than the sum of their parts, which is the synergy, the synergism that is found in this entourage effect, where the THC contributes to the effects of decreased pain, decreased inflammation, and improvements in things like sleep and appetite. So when you combine the THC, even at that small dose, it adds to the benefits of the products.
Mm. I mean, it sounds like you're very knowledgeable and passionate about it, but so is that what made you want to get into sort of the retail side of things, was to sort of spread that more widely, that education? Like how?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah? There's a lot of, as I said, there's a lot of misinformation, a lot of ignorance just because people don't know. And as I did leave my full-time position as a home health nurse in December, in anticipating opening this in April. Well, we know what happened then. But as I was out in the community, encountering these individuals who needed healthcare at home, and even in the hospitals when I was teaching and had students, we're seeing just such an increase in diseases and people who are just basically unwell, despite the fact that we have all of these medications, and despite the fact that we have a food plate and we have the knowledge to understand how exercise and activity works and how it all should go together. And with that, it became just as I opened, it's the hamster's wheel that all healthcare professionals feel that we're on, is that we're spinning and spinning and trying to help our communities and population achieve the level of wellness that we know is out there, but they can't do it for some reason or other. And when it dawned on me that I was going to be spinning my wheels until my retirement, I thought, no, it's time to hop off of this wheel and start really doing something, even if it's just one individual at a time. And I've had many individuals come in who are repeat customers already because they're recognizing that these are products that can help them move toward that level of wellness, which is why I wanted to step out of my my highly successful career as a nursing professor and clinical practitioner. Don't know if I made the right decision yet, but it's still early.
Well, how are you feeling? Sorry about a little. Give it a second. Okay, there we go. How are you feeling about the future? And I know we just had the elections ongoing, but there's been a lot of talks about legalizing marijuana and different things on that front. How are you feeling? Are you feeling positive? Do you feel like there's a shift maybe coming?
I do feel that there's a shift. I think on the ballot, I think there were 5 or 6 states that legalized recreational cannabis.
The Air Force is talking about it now too.
And what's that?
The Air Force is talking about potentially legalizing.
Absolutely. The military is a big piece of this puzzle. But I can touch on that if you like. But I'm very positive because overall the majority vote in every state is just legalize it. Legalize it, regulate it. As you would any other substance. We already regulate tobacco. We already regulate alcohol. Who knows what else we regulate? I think we should be regulating these energy drinks, but that's a discussion for another time. But I'm very positive. And in fact, the hemp industry itself is projected to just boom. So not so much the medical cannabis, because we still have a lot of hoops to go through. There are 3 acts moving through Congress now related to either the banking, because right now it's still all a cash business. So banking is moving through there, expungement and removing prohibition is moving in there, and then letting states decide is also moving through there. So we've got activity on the federal level. We've got states that are already usurping the federal prohibition and declaring for themselves whether or not it's legal. So I think in the next several years, I'm banking on within the next 5 years, we're going to see a huge uptake in not only the cannabis, but the hemp world, because hemp can be used not only for these wellness products, but I also sell nutritional products as well. So we've got hemp seed oil and hemp seed protein and hemp pastas and hemp sauces. And that's on the food side. We can use it in clothing. I sell hemp backpacks. There's hemp t-shirts. There's hemp pants. Levi's has come out with hemp pant. There's hemp shoes. Nike has come out with hemp shoes. So we're seeing it in the apparel line. And now we're seeing it also in the industrial products. We're seeing hemp papers, hemp plastics, hemp insulation, hemp concrete, hemp lumber. I love to tell the story about how in 1930s, Henry Ford himself built a car out of hemp plastic, and he powered it with hemp biofuel. And it was his belief that hemp could be used instead of the minerals from the ground or the trees to build, to use for paper, because it's such a sustainable plant. We call it weed for a reason, because it grows anywhere, and it will grow in almost any soil, which is why we have these safety standards to consider, but it is going to be a huge industry, and that's what I'm banking on myself.
And do you get involved with lobbying efforts at all? Because it sounds like you're very passionate about it, and with these bills going through, like, do you help with the education or the lobbying, advocating for the industry?
Absolutely. I am a member of NORML. That's the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. We're not all hippies and stoners, right? We do have some credentials behind us, and the organization has been around since the 1970s. And I have to give them a lot of credit, because they did get me involved in the lobbying. I have been very privileged and very fortunate to actually participate in several NORML lobby days, both in Richmond, where I met and discussed medical cannabis with Senator John Cosgrove when it first went up for the vote in 2000, I want to say 16 or 17. And then a couple years ago, I participated in the lobby day, the National Lobby Day in Washington, D.C., where I met again with Senator Tim Kaine and Congressman McEachin and discussed this medical cannabis benefits. So yes, as far as lobbying is concerned, I haven't had too much time lately to do that because I'm my only employee, but I am still very passionate about helping these laws, helping these regulations become enacted. I know that in just this last summer, Governor Northam did regulate hemp products as a food additive, so it is now a nutritional substance related to the laws in Virginia. So we're even moving a little bit faster than the rest of the country in Virginia related to how we fall on where hemp and hemp edibles lie.
Oh, that's great. Getting back to the business for a moment, you just said like you're the only employee, and when you wanted to open back in April, did you actually remain open, or did you sort of close the doors and think, oh, I'll just wait a while?
I had to stay closed. I was building this place. I had to first of all, it took me a while to find a place because when landlords, you have to describe what you want to do, and landlords found out that I wanted to sell hemp and CBD. They're like, no, we don't want that here. So I had to move on. So when I did finally find this place, and we did finally come through with the negotiations, because again, it became very much a liability issue. I'm a liability. My insurance is double the industry standards because I'm a liability. I'm selling hemp and CBD products. So when I did finally find that place, and we finally inked on the dotted line, that's when everything shut down. And so my store had to remain vacant. It had to remain unbuilt. But yet I had stocked up my inventory in anticipation of opening in April. So my house looked like a CBD store, but I couldn't do anything about it until I got the contractors back online and things started to move again. So I was very fortunate to, number one, not have that concern that I had to shut down as a successful business and then worry about it. So I was really just holding my own. I had reserves, so I was really just holding my own, trying to maintain until that time that I could open.
Yeah. And the products that you have, were they, like the inventory, did it last? Was any of it sort of dated that was like got due dates before you could open, or does it have a long shelf life?
I had a few products that are very sensitive, like I have CBD eye drops. So because they are produced at the molecular level, they are very much more at risk. So just a few things like that. Other than that, hemp products have a very long shelf life. I think most of my tinctures are 1 to 2 years because of the way that they are packaged and because of the way they are made. So most of the products that I had, I was still able to use, fortunately.
Nice. When you say tincture, is that the little bottle that has the
dropper? Yes.
The dropper. Okay. All
yes.
right.
So how long have you been open?
Grand opening was August 1, so really just about 3 months worth. I have a great location here in Kempsville, at Kempsville Road in Chesapeake. I have a Walmart across the street, and I'm getting most of my business, though, however, through word of mouth. I love advertising. I've been in a couple of the local news magazines, advertising magazines, The Shopper, and then I have, of course, been on a couple radio and a couple TV shows, and I have a regular column in The Shopper now. They have asked me to contribute, and I've been on Ask the Expert on WNIS. I will be again in November 14th. So word is starting to get out, and what I'm very much hopeful for is that the word of mouth is getting out. Individuals who are benefiting are telling other individuals not only about the fact that I have these products, but the fact that I'm able to actually approach it from a medical perspective and help them understand the use of it in relation to what they want to use it for.
Right. And maybe just help people get over the stigma of it. I think that education is so important. When people, hear the word hemp or CBD or anything, it's just like, not sure where to go from there, whether it's safe or anything. So I think that is a major part of what you do. So, but you've got that background that you can do it. So,
it does. That authority it's got to be huge for you, especially, at least personally, from what I've sort of seen the trend with the hemp businesses going. It's no longer about like, is it safe or not? It sort of seems like almost MLM-y a little bit, the hemp stores, where it's like, can you even trust, like, who's this person who opened up a hemp store? Are they just trying to jump on the bandwagon and trying to steal my money?
Yes, and that's where I'm trying to make my niche, so to speak, is that I have many customers coming to me saying, well, I went to this other CBD store and they really couldn't tell me much about it. Yeah. Except, here, use it. It'll make you feel better. I don't have that approach. I want you to know why it feels better, why it's going to help you feel better, because to change any attitude or belief, you have to really empower the individual to understand from within that this is going to work. So we can call that the placebo effect, but we also have to understand any motivation behind that to use a product. Why do you take a blood pressure pill? Because you believe that using this pill every day is going to bring down your blood pressure. So you put all of your faith in this pill, but you were told about that pill because your healthcare practitioner, your healthcare provider said that this is what it was going to do based on the science behind it. So this is where I'm approaching it from, is that I need to empower our customer base and our populations that this will work, and this is why. So it's not voodoo science. Do not buy your CBD products from a gas station or 7-Eleven because you're getting snake oil. You're getting snake oil. And Amazon, let me touch on Amazon. People will bring in products that they buy on Amazon and say, this doesn't work. Why isn't this working? That's because Amazon doesn't sell CBD products. They sell hemp oil products, pretending to be CBD products. So it's a lot about educating and empowering the client base.
It reminds me a little bit of the time where essential oils were the same thing, buying them online. And people are like, well, that's not the real thing. And it's like, well, what's the difference? And I think a lot of that just, takes a little bit of time and education. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like you've got a goal, but do you have a sort of a long-term goal, short-term goals? How have you set that up, like personally and in your business?
That's the hardest part. As a nurse, my goals are all about helping patients achieve their wellness, their well-being. Business, I have no clue what I'm doing. My goals are to remain open and to help people. So with that, I hope to be successful enough to open not just one, but more stores. I do have an opportunity to expand the franchise in this area. So my goal, I guess, as far as retail side is to see more HempHavens open in the different cities. My next sites are on Suffolk because I know that that community is growing. But my other goal is really to just help individuals understand that these are products that are beneficial and that eventually I can bounce from one store to the other, either meeting with people on an appointment type basis because they need my expertise, or the customer base is such that they return to purchase the products that have already made them well because of the recommendations made to them. So it's a slow model. I know it's one that's founded on my activity, which I think is the biggest barrier because it's just me. I am all self-funded, so everything that I do comes out of my pocketbook. So it's only one of me, and the challenge is going to be how to find more of me, or at least someone quasi like me that can do all of this.
And I think that's a common issue for a lot of business owners. It's like, I want another me. I need another me to help support the business. So I good luck with that. But
are HempHavens the other locations? Are any of them dispensaries?
No.
Okay.
No, we don't dispense. So a dispensary is, again, from the pharmaceutical lingo, right? A dispensary. So dispensaries are somewhere where it is going to be regulated by the state in which the dispensary resides. So those are typically reserved for the medical cannabis world, the dispensary world. I can be considered a cannabis dispensary, so quasi-cannabis dispensary, because I do dispense cannabis products, which are hemp. They're related. Hemp and cannabis are cousins, but you don't need a prescription, and that's where the distinction lies. And when you use the word dispensary.
Okay.
Interesting.
There's a lot going on. Now, I know in a previous conversation we had via email, you mentioned something about a book. Is that right?
Yes.
So are you also an author?
Yeah, yes. I've presented at national conferences related to medical cannabis. And as I mentioned earlier, I was on the board of directors for the American Cannabis Nurses Association, where I chair the Research and Education Committee. And through that, I was approached by Wolters Kluwer Health Publishers to contribute to the first cannabis nursing textbook. So that will be published in January of 2021. I wrote the chapter 2 on the endocannabinoid system. As an educator, I was the professor you love to hate. I was the professor that taught pharmacology and pathophysiology and anatomy and physiology. So these are all fact-based courses. They're not theory courses. So you can't change the facts. And so with that background, I was tapped to write the physiological chapter that describes the endocannabinoid system, which is a system in our body that uses the marijuana and hemp products. Specifically, it only reacts to one product, and that's found in cannabis. And so with that knowledge and foundation, I was able to write the chapter describing the physiology of how the endocannabinoid system contributes to our health.
Nice. And I know it's for nurses, but that sounds like it could actually be good for consumers too. So is there any chance that that can sort of be simplified a little bit, and maybe, it's part of your educational, information?
It could be used for consumers. It's going to be on Amazon. It's already you can already pre-order it on Amazon, and that's the beauty of it is with Amazon anybody can order anything. There are just a plethora. There are a number of great books about cannabis. There's the cannabis itself. The plant has been researched. It's the most investigated drug in the world. And the research goes back to the 1960s on what these compounds do and how they are used and what the effects that they have on the body. So there are a lot of great cannabis books out there, and now there has been a huge explosion on the number of beneficial CBD and hemp books as well. But yes, it will be available. It's already available on Amazon as a pre-order.
What's it called?
It's called Cannabis, oh gosh, I just went blank. The Cannabis Nursing Textbook.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right,
There
just
you
give it a plug.
Yep. Or you can look it up as the author, the editor is Carey Clark, Carey Clark, Clark. So if you just do a Google search for it, Amazon search for it, you can probably find it.
Great. Well, we are running out of time, Kylie. So
Okay.
if you have any more questions, go ahead. I know you look like you're about to tee one up, so maybe one more question and then we'll move
Not at
on.
all. Not at all. We're good on time. I think I couldn't ask a lot of questions, but but I think that was a great conversation, and thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for the invitation. It's wonderful to belong to Retail Alliance. I didn't know this was around, and I think you guys do a phenomenal job.
Oh, we appreciate
Thank you
that.
so
Really,
much.
really happy to belong.